I had written the first book with New Harbinger called The Self-Forgiveness Handbook. I was invited back to my alma mater, Austin College in Sherman, Texas, to give a lecture on it. It's interesting, too, that my psychology professor, when he heard that I had written the book, I was an English major primarily at Austin College, and Howard Starr said, well, if I remember him correctly, he had plenty to forgive himself for. So it's like, so I thought, well, at least they remembered me. That's good. In the book, it's just the story of me getting there the night before I go to do the lecture, and it's a momentous time for me. It's like, it feels really amazing
to be asked back to your alma mater, and more or less you return a winner. That's just that's going to have appeal to anybody, I think.
Oh, I love that. I was going to do I was in part of the lecture series that I had always skipped out on. Every time I was supposed to be at those lectures, I found a way to get out of them. And now I guess they finally found a way to get me to show up. It's kind of one of those weird stories I have where I'm a little bit of a psychic thing where it's like I'm walking across the campus by myself at night, just kind of reminiscing and things. And all of a sudden there's this message that I get. Whatever or whoever the source of the voice, the message, it's more like receiving a complete package of thoughts than it is like actually hearing a voice. It's not a very auditory experience. This message was definitely with me on that night as I took my campus stroll. And it said, Thom, you are still scared. It said, fear still has too much power in your life. The experience was not a simple self-criticism. It was a reality check through my whole being. I knew my life had been more than just fear. I did not forget the obstacles I had overcome or the courage that had guided me into and through some of the darkest places of my consciousness. I had been in recovery from alcoholism for 12 years and had been treated for depression for 6 years. I had well-established therapy practice in which I guided many others through difficult times, important discoveries, and life-changing decisions. I had written and published several books, accomplishing a lifelong dream for myself. But the fear was always there. My first marriage had not survived, but now I was happily married, living in a real life, healthy relationship, but the fear was still there. It had always been there. In spite of all I had accomplished, all I was grateful for, I realized in that moment, not only that fear had always been there, but also that much of the time fear was still in charge. Although in many ways I was different from the young man who had graduated from Austin College 25 years before, I still had something very much in common with him. As I walked from one end of that campus to the other, I was in class once again. Forget about the lecture I was there to give. Here is the lecture I was apparently there to receive. Even though I cannot explain exactly how it works, these are the words I heard or felt or both. Said, pay close attention. Please listen carefully. Look at what happens when fear is in charge. With fear in charge, you can never fully relax. Let your guard down. Be your true self. You cannot open up because you are afraid of how people will respond if they were to meet the real you. When fear is in charge, you cannot take that chance. Fear will not allow honesty. Fear despises spontaneity, and fear refuses to believe in you. Fear may mean well, but it ruins everything by overprotecting you, insisting that you stay hidden and keep a low profile, promising that your time is coming sometime later. Fear is bold, but insists that you be timid. Take a chance and there will be hell to pay. Fear will call on its dear friend shame to meet you on the other side of your risk-taking, to tell you that you should not have done that. Fear will trip you, tackle you, smother you, do whatever it takes to cause you to hesitate, to stop you. In this way, fear is fearless. Fear will remain in charge for as long as you let it. I'd just like to repeat that one. Fear will remain in charge for as long as you let it. It will never volunteer to step down, to relinquish its authority. Then we get to some solution. It goes on. Your assignment is to live life that is not ruled by fear. To do this, you must be able to identify at any given time exactly what the fear is telling you, or rather threatening you with. and to disobey its instructions. Every morning when you wake up, make a conscious decision to remain in charge of your own life. Fear cannot occupy the space in which you stand. Fear cannot force you out of that position of authority, but it can, if you let it, scare you away. Let your personal motto be no fear. Say those two powerful words as you put your feet on the floor, as you look into the mirror, as you walk out the door. Ask yourself each morning and all through the day, what will no fear mean for me today? Ask yourself the question, and this is my favorite part. It says, and don't forget to listen to the answer.
That's wonderful, Thom. You know, I was looking at the text you sent me yesterday. What you said is that it's been an intense few days for me, no particular reason other than I am me. And there's this horrible show called Dexter, where there's like a serial killer cop who he has this his killing impulse he calls his dark passenger. And I kind of see your fear, the way you've contextualized it, as like your dark passenger. For me, I've got fear, I've got addiction issues, and this is just a thing. This is just a thing that we live with and manage, but we need not let it rule us.
There's good news and bad news. The bad news is you can't get rid of your fear, and the good news is you don't need to.